I'm like a Chicago liberal, but the way things have gone, especially with like the woke stuff, and this is where I end up in this position, and so does my neighborhood. I think it's interesting to see my neighborhood reflective of my politics and vice versa.
I think the phrase I was using last year was aggressively non-common sense or uncommonsensical. And it's like I accent aggressively.
Recently, Bill Maher sat down with to have a conversation with Tim Pool, and they happened to discuss how voters currently see the Democratic Party as out of touch with average Americans. This is something that's really been developing for a few years now, but certainly after the last presidential election and the fact that a lot of blue parts of the country started to kind of shift red. Well, now it's become more comfortable environment for people to kind of speak out against some of the culture on the left that's turning voters away. Now, as we've covered extensively on the show, minority and working class voters have been abandoning the Democrats in recent elections. The party itself is polling horribly to boot. So back in March, an NBC News poll found that just over a quarter of registered voters, 27%, say they have positive views of the party, which is the party's lowest positive rating in NBC News polling dating back to 1990. Just 7% say those views are very positive. So what are Democrats doing about it? They're gathering at luxury hotels to talk about how they can throw money at the problem and attract male voters. I'm not even kidding. That's literally what they're doing. So here's one of their ideas. The prospectus for one new $20 million effort obtained by the Times aims to reverse the erosion of Democratic support among young men, especially online. Okay, great. So they've got the funds. They're gonna throw money at it. Is that gonna work? It is codenamed SAM, short for Speaking with American Men, a strategic plan, and promises investment to study the syntax. All right, they're gonna fail. It starts with study the syntax, language, and content that gains attention and virality in these spaces. It recommends buying advertisements in video games, among other things. Above all, we must shift from a moralizing tone, it urges. So that last part, I actually 100% agree with. I don't even think you need to throw money at that. Just stop with the moralizing, stop with the browbeating, stop with like the language policing, and stop making young men feel like they're automatically terrible people just by the nature of them being young men. And I don't know why people don't get this, Cenk, but Joe Rogan's popularity is organic. They didn't throw money at Joe Rogan to make him popular. Joe Rogan became popular on his own without a political party, manufacturing him. I don't know why they don't realize this, but the sooner they do realize it, the better.
I don't know about that, Anna. I hear that Joe Rogan has a PhD on male syntax, and that's why he's done so well. Okay, so we're gonna get into more language absurdities in a second when it comes to the Democrats, but two things on this. I can name that tune for $2 million, okay? So don't worry, Democrats, come here, I'll tell you how to speak like a dude. And you don't do it by trying to figure out how American men speak. You're American, right? Like, oh, they drive me crazy, man. They're so elitist, they can't see straight. So now, the moralizing tone, 100%, Anna. And I'm super curious what's gonna happen with the rest of the left, right? The left-wing hosts and stuff, because we've been against the moralizing tone for years now. And we got attacked by all the left. How dare you not use the correct terms? And there's a million examples. I'll give you one that that's kind of benign. Instead of homeless, they switched to unhoused. And I was
sometimes houseless.
Yeah.
Houselessness.
I'm like, no.
Why that's better, I don't know.
It's not
better.
But
that's what the libs like to do. They don't like to actually tackle the problem effectively. They just like to rebrand it. It's ridiculous.
But now that the Democratic Party and the money behind the Democratic Party is saying, okay, we're not doing moralizing anymore, we're not doing language policing, etc. I wonder how some of the hosts are gonna react. Are they gonna be super mad about that, like they were to us? Or because the Democratic leadership is saying it, they're gonna go, and then change their opinion? I don't know. We're all gonna find out together.
They'll fall in line like good boys and girls. That's what they do.
Okay, probably.
Yeah.
All right, give us more then.
All right, well, I'm gonna fast forward over to the language part of this, because if you guys can recall, Senator Alyssa Slotkin, who used to work with the CIA, says that Democrats need to stop being so weak and woke, and says that we shouldn't use words like oligarchy. You know, these Americans, these voters, they're too dumb. They don't know what oligarchy means. It sounds clunky. Stay away from that. Seems like, based on the crowd sizes, a lot of Americans understand what oligarchy is. But nonetheless, she contends that her party needs to use language that comes, as she puts it, from the factory line and not the faculty lounge. Now, look, I agree with that. I actually do agree with that. I think Americans do understand what oligarchy means. I think the messaging issue here is that the faculty lounge language typically has to do with some of the social phenomenons in the country, cultural issues, when in reality, right now, voters across the board are struggling economically, and they want to know what type of program the Democratic Party champions in order to make their economic woes a little better. That is what they've moved away from, and instead engage in, rebranding societal ills without actually finding real solutions for them. She said the scope of her party's challenge hit home when a voter wearing a Make America Great Again cap asked her, "What's your hat?" He was hoping for a Democratic message that could fit onto a cap, she said. And she realized there was no obvious answer. And look, that goes back to the fact that Americans don't really know what the Democratic Party even stands for. Because for almost a decade, the only thing that they have messaged about, and they've messaged about this effectively, is that they don't like Trump, Trump bad, Trump 24/7. That is the heart of their messaging. It's the heart of their campaigning. And while they focused on Trump, they forgot to maybe figure out who they are and what they represent.
Yeah, and the reason why they did that is because they don't want to actually pass any of the bills that they claim they're in favor of. So they substituted that with Trump bad, me hate Trump. The second thing they substitute with is culture wars and identity politics. Oh, they're all white supremacists and fascists, etc. And by the way, there are some white supremacists there, and I am worried about his authoritarian tendencies, but you can't substitute that for real policy and a positive message. And they're like, no, it's okay, we'll just call them racist and that'll solve it. That way we don't have to do paid family leave or higher minimum wage. Well, wrong again, Bob. The American people are not interested in your BS. And it's obvious to us now the Democratic leadership, not the voters, but the leadership, doesn't want to pass any of these bills. They're full of crap. Go study that for $20 million. Okay, can you figure that out? And who made them full of crap? Those same donors who are like, you better not help the average American, and you better give me a tax cut, and you better deregulate my business. Now let's spend $20 million how to figure out the syntax of the American male, like we're zoologists or something.
That was good, I like that, I enjoyed it, I will allow it.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.